The colony of Horizon Reach was quiet at first, a typical morning on the outer rim. Soft sunlight spilled across the metal buildings, glinting off the solar panels that surrounded the city. People were starting their daily routines, farmers checked hydroponic gardens, children ran in the parks, and the hum of small transport vehicles filled the air. From a distance, the towering mountains looked calm and still, like Earth in miniature. Far away in another system, Laura, a young engineer, was checking the power conduits of one of the water purification units. She hummed a tune to herself, unaware that the piece would end in minutes. Suddenly, the sky turned dark with strange shapes. Shadows moved faster than clouds, and the air seemed to vibrate with a low hum. Laura looked up and froze. Shapes that were not any ship she had ever seen streaked toward the city. Long, spiked silhouettes glinted in the sun as they moved with deadly precision. Her stomach twisted. She knew something was very wrong. Daniel, a pilot in the Colony Defense Force, was already in his hangar, preparing to launch a small fighter. His communicator beeped furiously. All units, incoming hostile unidentified ships. Defend the city. He grabbed his helmet and raced toward the cockpit, the sound of alarms filling the station. The first blast tore through the city before anyone could react. Buildings crumbled like sandcastles under the alien weapons. Plasma beams cut through the air, vaporizing vehicles and shattering walls. A high-pitched shriek echoed from above, an unearthly sound that chilled even the hardened soldiers. Laura ran toward the nearest shelter, her tools clattering behind her. She saw her neighbors frozen in fear. A man tried to drive a transport vehicle, but it exploded as a beam sliced through it. Children screamed, and adults shouted at each other, trying to get somewhere safe. Daniel finally reached his fighter, but the doors of the hangar were already collapsing. He barely made it in, securing the canopy just as the hangar roof fell in. His controls lit up with warnings. The targeting systems were jammed. The alien ships moved with a strange coordination, avoiding the colony's turrets and picking off defenses one by one. Laura ducked inside a shelter as the ground shook. Dust and debris filled the air. She held her ears and prayed that Daniel would survive. She had seen him take part in drills, always confident and calm. He had always promised he would protect the colony if anything happened. Above the city, the sky was a blur of metal and fire. The aliens, later known as the Varkal, struck with precise coordination. They seemed to know where people hid and what structures were weakest. They did not communicate in any way humans could understand. To the colonists, it seemed as if the ships were alive, hunting and striking with thought and cruelty. The colony's defense turrets tried to respond. Bright beams of energy shot into the sky, cutting trails of smoke from alien ships. Daniel fired his fighter's weapons, maneuvering through explosions and debris. But each Varkal ship seemed untouchable. His systems beeped warnings about heat overload and weapon malfunctions. One of the alien cruisers fired a pulse that disabled his shields temporarily. Daniel's stomach dropped. He was skilled, but this was not a normal enemy. On Earth, in a fortified orbital station above the planet, Admiral Scott was reading through incoming messages. His eyes narrowed as he saw the fragmented transmissions from Horizon Reach. The images were filled with smoke, fire, and screams. Civilian ships were burning. Buildings crumbled, and the defense posts had failed. The messages cut off suddenly, leaving only static. Scott slammed his fist on the table. "They struck one of our colonies," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but the anger underneath was visible to those who stood nearby. "And we have only a fragment of what happened. Prepare an emergency command meeting. I want every available officer in the room now." In the command room, officers gathered quickly. Claire, a young and sharp intelligence officer, pulled up the last sensor readings from Horizon Reach. Even through the interference, the data was clear. Large warships, moving in tight formations, had swept the colony in less than 30 minutes. "They came fast, and they came prepared," Claire said, pointing at the holographic display. "Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen. They disabled our satellites and jammed communications before we even had time to respond." A quiet murmur spread through the room. Earth had experienced attacks from small alien raiders before, but never a full assault on a settled colony. No human city had faced such destruction in the Outer Rim. Scott leaned forward, his hands on the table. We can't respond the way we usually do. The colonies are too far away. Our standard fleet would take days, maybe weeks, to arrive. This isn't just a raid. This is an attack on humanity itself. He paused, then spoke the words that had been whispered in strategic circles for decades. It is time to activate the dragons of Earth. The term drew curious and nervous glances. Most humans thought the dragons were a myth, stories told to frighten pirates and discourage smugglers. Only a few in high command knew the truth. The dragons were real. Elite strike ships designed to be faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything else in the human fleet. They were hidden in a secret orbit on the far side of the moon, waiting for the moment when humanity needed them most. Scott sent a coded message to the orbital facility where the dragons were hidden. On the bridge of the Iron Dragon, Captain Ryan received the alert. He studied the holographic images of Horizon Reach's destruction. Smoke and fire filled every frame. Civilians running for their lives, buildings collapsing. He felt a knot in his stomach. Around him, the crew prepared silently. Ellen, the navigator, double-checked coordinates for immediate departure. Marcus, the tactical officer, ran calculations for the fastest intercept trajectory. Olivia, the chief engineer, ran diagnostics on every engine and weapons system. Making sure the ship was ready for full combat, Ryan turned to the crew. This is what we were. Build for, he said. The colonies were attacked. Innocent people are in danger. The Varkal think they can strike at humanity with no response. They are wrong. The crew nodded, their faces serious but determined. Each of them had trained for this moment, though none had ever imagined it would come so soon. Meanwhile, on Horizon Reach, Laura crouched behind a fallen wall. She could hear the screams of her neighbors and the roar of the alien ships. She did not know if Daniel had survived. She prayed that he had. She had grown up hearing stories about the dragons of Earth, but she had never believed in them. Now, in the face of death, she hoped the stories were true. Back on the bridge of the Iron Dragon, Ryan activated the engines. The ship trembled as energy surged through every system. The dragon ships were powerful, but even they required careful handling when moving at full speed. The crew worked in harmony, checking every system, coordinating every movement. Scott watched from Earth as the dragons prepared for departure. He knew the path ahead would be dangerous. The Varkal were not just another alien species. They were precise, ruthless, and relentless. But Scott also knew something the Varkal would soon learn. Humans are not weak. Humans survive where other species would fail. Humans adapt. And humans have something no other race in this region possessed. The dragons, Ryan's voice cut through the intercom. All stations report ready, engines at full power. We depart for Horizon Reach and beyond. We answer the call. A hush fell over the bridge. The crew felt the weight of the mission, the danger ahead, and the responsibility they carried for all humanity. Then the engines roared to life, bright blue energy spilling from the thrusters, lighting the shadows of the hidden orbit. The dragons moved as one, a silent and powerful force, leaving behind the calm of the moon to enter the darkness of space. On Horizon Reach, Laura peeked through the debris. She saw something glimmer far above, a strange shape moving against the stars. She did not know if it was hope or another threat, but for the first time, she felt a flicker of faith. Someone, somewhere, was coming. Someone who could fight back. Daniel, in his battered fighter, maneuvered toward a partial shield the aliens had missed. His systems were failing, but he was alive. He saw the glint of massive ships moving toward the Varkal forces. His mouth went dry. Could it be the dragons? Could they really be here? The answer would come soon. Humanity had been struck at its colonies, but the world of Earth had weapons and warriors that few had ever imagined. The dragons of Earth were awake, and they were ready to make the Varkal learn a lesson they would never forget. Smoke and fire still filled Horizon Reach, but above the ruins, something moved. A fleet of enormous warships, shaped like dragons in the minds of those who had designed them. Cut across the blackness of space, they carried humanity's vengeance, courage, and the strength of an entire death world. The galaxy would soon see that when humans are forced to fight, they fight like dragons. And for the Varkal, this was only the beginning. The dragons of Earth moved silently through the void, leaving the orbit of the moon behind. The stars stretched around them, distant and cold. On the bridge of the Iron Dragon, Captain Ryan watched the display of empty space ahead. His eyes sharp. He knew the Varkal were out there, waiting somewhere. But he also knew they would not find humans easy prey. Ellen, the navigator, adjusted the course with careful precision. We can save 3 days if we pass through the Rylith asteroid field. It is dangerous, but it is the fastest route. Ryan looked at her, measuring the risk. The asteroid field was thick, and the gravitational shifts could tear a ship apart if they miscalculated. Take the risk. Ryan said finally, every hour counts if we want to reach the forward base before they move on to the next colony. Ellen nodded and began recalculating the vectors to thread the dragons safely. Through the chaotic rocks, Marcus, the tactical officer, studied the Varkal movements on the screen. Scans are showing faint energy signatures ahead. It could be scouts or traps. We need to be ready for anything. He tapped the display and expanded the data. The readings were faint, almost imperceptible, but he knew better than to ignore them. Olivia, in engineering, walked through the corridors of the Iron Dragon with a determined stride. She checked each engine and shield system herself, ensuring that every component was at full power. The engines are ready, she said into the comm. Shields are holding steady. Weapons systems are optimal. If we survive the asteroid field, the dragons will hit like storms. She smiled faintly. Her confidence was calm but unshakable. On Ocean Dragon, Captain Linda monitored the communications from the other ships. The 4 dragons maintained tight coordination despite being spread across thousands of kilometers. Even a small delay could cause disaster in the asteroid field. Linda adjusted the relay systems and watched as Night Dragon slipped behind a dense asteroid belt, hiding its sensors. Back on the Iron Dragon, Ryan walked along the bridge. He checked on crew members, offering quiet words of encouragement. He stopped near the viewports, watching the streaking rocks in the distance. Each of them could be deadly if misjudged. He thought of Horizon Reach, burning under the Varkal attack. The images burned in his mind. He promised himself that he would not let any other human suffer the same fate. Meanwhile, in the asteroid field, the dragons moved like shadows through chaos. Ellen guided the ships with smooth precision, weaving between spinning rocks and narrow gaps. The ships shuddered as small collisions with smaller debris occurred, but the main bodies of the dragons remained intact. Marcus directed the weapon systems at approaching Varkal scout drones. Tiny, fast, and dangerous, the drones darted toward the fleet, attempting to probe the ship's defenses. Daniel, now aboard Night Dragon as part of the temporary coordination unit for the rescue mission, watched the drones on the display. They are testing us, he said quietly. They want to see how fast we react. Where we are weak. He leaned forward, his fingers flying over controls that would launch countermeasures. Explosions flared in space as drones were intercepted mid-flight, vaporized by precise laser fire. On Ocean Dragon, Linda watched as her ship entered a particularly dense part of the asteroid field. She adjusted thrusters, letting gravity from a nearby rock pull them along. The ship trembled, but she held it steady. She felt the nervous energy of the crew, but she spoke calmly, giving them confidence. Steady hands, she said. The rocks move fast, but we move faster. Back on Iron Dragon, Ryan received a communication from Admiral Scott. The link was brief and filled with static, but the message was clear. Do not hesitate. The colonies are counting on you. Show them what humanity can do. Ryan acknowledged the message. The words reminded him why they were here. This was not just strategy or orders. This was defense of human lives, families, friends. Hours passed as the fleet pushed through the asteroid field. Minor damage occurred, a few shields faltered, but Olivia and her team kept every system functional. The dragons worked in perfect synchronization. For massive ships moving like a single entity through dangerous terrain, it was a dance of metal and power, a show of discipline and human skill. As they emerged from the field, the sensors detected faint but clear traces of the Varkal forward base. The gas giant around which it was hidden loomed ahead. Its storm swirled violently, masking the station and creating natural cover for the enemy. Claire, on the Iron Dragon, analyzed the readings carefully. "The base is heavily shielded," she reported. "They have captured human vessels, including transport ships. We might even find survivors aboard." Ryan's jaw tightened. He remembered Laura and Daniel, both at Horizon Reach during the attack. He thought of all the families lost, the children frightened and trapped. He turned to Marcus. "Prepare a plan. We need to rescue the humans and neutralize their command center. If possible, we do both at the same time." Marcus nodded. "It's risky, but it can be done. Iron Dragon and Storm Dragon take the station head-on. Ocean Dragon and Night Dragon slip behind the base using the gas giant's magnetic storms for cover. Then extract the prisoners. Timing is critical. One misstep and the whole operation could fail." Ryan gave the order. "Prepare for the dual strike. All crews, report readiness." Every officer confirmed their stations. Crew members moved quickly but with care. The boarding teams prepared small craft for the extraction mission. Engineers checked weapons one last time. Navigation plotted precise paths through the gas giant's storm and gravitational pull. As the dragons approached the base, the tension on the ships was almost tangible. No one spoke unless necessary. The hum of the engines filled the corridors, the pulse of energy from the reactors vibrating through the metal decks. Each crew member focused on their role. Every human on board knew the stakes. Every life in the captured colonies depended on their success. Daniel and Laura were among the humans aboard the captured transport vessel. They had been hiding since the attack, avoiding patrols and searching for weaknesses in the Varkal security. When a small crew of rescuers appeared outside the docking bay, Daniel whispered to Laura, "Get ready. This is our chance." Laura nodded, her hands trembling but her eyes steady. They prepared improvised weapons and began unlocking doors from the inside. Back on Night Dragon, Captain Linda coordinated with the boarding team. Small craft detached from the main ship, moving like silent predators through the shadows of the gas giant's upper storms. The transport carrying the prisoners was barely visible in the swirling energy, a faint silhouette against lightning flashes. Linda directed each craft carefully. Timing and precision were everything. The slightest miscalculation could alert the Varkal or endanger the humans in the Iron Dragon. Ryan oversaw the assault on the station itself. Energy shields flared as plasma lances fired, striking the Varkal warships and defenses. The enemy ships reacted quickly, sending waves of drones and fighters to intercept the dragons. Marcus coordinated the overlapping fire of the fleet, creating zones where the enemy could not advance without suffering severe losses. Ellen guided the ship through maneuvers that placed the heaviest weapons at the most effective angles. Olivia monitored the energy flow, diverting power to shields where needed and keeping engines stable. The synergy of human skill, strategy, and sheer determination turned the attack into a coordinated storm of destruction. Hours passed in the void near the gas giant. Explosions lit the dark space. Debris floated among the storms, and the Varkal forces scrambled. On Night Dragon, the boarding teams reached the human prisoners. Daniel and Laura moved quickly, helping people escape from locked rooms and barricaded corridors. Their combined efforts caused chaos among the Varkal guards, giving the rescuers an advantage. By the time the boarding teams returned with the humans, Iron Dragon and Storm Dragon had struck decisive blows to the station. The command center was crippled, and the remaining enemy ships attempted to flee. The dragons fired in controlled bursts, ensuring the enemy could not regroup. The captured human ships were freed, carrying survivors back to safety. Ryan watched the battle conclude. The Varkal forces were scattered, their forward base destroyed, and the prisoners safe. The dragons had completed their first major mission. He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of both relief and sorrow. Many had fought bravely, some had been wounded, but the mission had succeeded. The rescued humans, including Daniel and Laura, looked at the dragons with awe and gratitude. They had survived what seemed impossible. For the first time, they truly understood what it meant to have the dragons of Earth defending humanity. The sky above them, once filled with terror, was now clear. The stars shone brightly, and humanity's strength had made itself known even at the far edge of the Outer Rim. As the fleet gathered and prepared to return to Earth, Ryan addressed his crew. "We have shown what humans can do, but this is only the beginning. The Varkal will learn that humanity is not weak, and they will understand that when we fight like dragons." The dragons moved away from the gas giant, carrying the survivors and their own battle-worn ships. The stars stretched ahead, dark and full of unknown dangers. The humans had won this battle, but the war was far from over. They had shown courage, skill, and resilience. The dragons of Earth moved away from the gas giant, carrying the rescued humans and their own battle-worn ships. The silence of deep space surrounded them, broken only by the hum of their engines and the faint chatter over communications. Every crew member on board felt the weight of what they had accomplished. Yet they knew this was only the beginning. Captain Ryan stood on the bridge of Iron Dragon, watching the stars. The destruction of the Varkal forward base had been a hard battle, but it had been a victory. He felt relief, yes, but also a rising determination. Humanity had shown its strength, but the Varkal were still out there, and they would not give up easily. Ellen, the navigator, worked at her console. She scanned the surrounding systems for any signs of enemy movement. "Sensors are picking up traces of Varkal jump points," she reported. "They are retreating, but I can see where some of their fleets may regroup." Marcus, the tactical officer, leaned over the display. "They're retreating into less charted space. That means they could be hiding, preparing for another strike. We need to anticipate their next move." Ryan nodded. "We'll plot a course to intercept them if they try to hit another colony. We can't allow them to regroup and strike again." He turned to Olivia, the chief engineer. "How are the engines holding after the last battle?" Olivia checked the readings and shook her head slightly. "We've taken some damage, but everything critical is operational. Minor repairs will take some time, but we can continue. I'll have my team working on them as we move." She gave a small, confident smile. "We're not going anywhere without a fight." In the medbay, the rescued colonists were being treated. Some had burns and injuries from the Varkal attack, while others were suffering from shock. Daniel and Laura helped the medical team, checking on people they recognized. It was a mix of relief and sorrow. Knowing that some families had been lost and others were torn apart, Laura leaned against a wall, watching children play quietly after treatment. She whispered to Daniel, "We survived, but so many didn't." Daniel nodded. "That's why we have to make sure the dragons keep fighting. They have to know humanity won't stand down." Meanwhile, back on Iron Dragon, Ryan gathered his senior officers. "We've shown the Varkal what humans can do," he began. "But this is not over. We need to prepare for the next stage. They will not sit quietly." Marcus brought up a display of possible Varkal fleet locations. "Our best intelligence suggests they may be gathering near the Outer Rim. Small fleets, but enough to threaten remaining colonies. We need to be ready for any ambushes," Ellen added. "There are also uncharted asteroid fields and nebulae along our potential routes. They could be using these to hide. We need precise navigation to avoid surprises." Olivia spoke next. "The ships are ready for continued operations. Engines are stable, weapons are fully functional. We can take on additional threats if needed. But the crews need rest. We've been through a lot, and fatigue can be dangerous in battle." She glanced at the gathered officers, her gaze steady. "We'll need everyone sharp." Ryan nodded in agreement. "Then we rotate the crews. Half rest, half remain on duty. Everyone needs to be ready. We cannot underestimate the Varkal again." On Ocean Dragon, Captain Linda held a meeting with her crew. "We've rescued the prisoners and ensured their safety, but our mission isn't complete," she said. "We need to continue patrolling, intercepting any further Varkal activity. Our presence alone may prevent attacks." The crew worked in silence for a few moments, thinking of the colonies at risk and the destruction they had witnessed. Each person understood the responsibility they carried. The dragons of Earth were no longer just hidden guardians. They were the shield and sword of humanity. In the observation deck of Night Dragon, Daniel and Laura watched the stars pass by. They were safe for now, but Daniel's mind was restless. "Do you think the Varkal will come back?" he asked. Laura sighed. "They have too. They don't understand weakness. But now, they also understand what humans are capable of." Back on Iron Dragon, Ryan reviewed the battle reports. The Varkal had used precision strikes, but they had underestimated human resilience and strategy. He studied each move, each counterattack, noting what worked and what could be improved. Every detail mattered for the next engagement. Marcus approached him quietly. "Captain, the Varkal are smart. They learn quickly. We can't rely on brute force alone. We need to anticipate their tactics, adapt faster than they can." Ryan nodded. "Agreed. We will be ready," Ellen interrupted, pointing at her navigation console. "Captain, there's an uncharted system ahead. Sensor readings are faint, but I believe we might find more Varkal ships there. It could be a trap, but it could also be an opportunity to strike preemptively." Ryan considered it. "We approach cautiously. Stay alert. We do not engage unless necessary, but we are prepared for anything." The dragons moved into the uncharted system, their formations tight, engines humming steadily. Every crew member was aware of the danger, but also of the purpose. They were moving not just for revenge, but to protect humanity, to prevent more colonies from burning. In the medical bay, Laura helped a young boy who had been injured. She smiled softly, trying to bring comfort. The children looked up at her, sensing her determination. Daniel came over, handing out water and blankets. Both felt a sense of responsibility, knowing that their lives had changed forever. They would fight alongside humanity however they could. As the dragons moved deeper into space, a sudden alert rang out. "Sensor sweep detects multiple fast-moving contacts," Marcus said. The display showed several Varkal ships emerging from hidden positions, attempting to flank the dragons. "They found us first," Marcus added grimly. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Battle stations. Prepare for engagement." Every crew member moved with practiced precision. Shields hummed, weapons powered up, and navigation locked in tight formations. The dragons of Earth were ready for the fight, ready to show the Varkal what it meant to challenge humans. The first enemy ships charged forward. Plasma weapons fired, lighting up the darkness. Iron Dragon responded with calculated strikes, cutting down the first wave of attackers. Marcus directed the overlapping fields of fire, ensuring that the enemy could not escape without damage. Ellen guided the ship smoothly through evasive maneuvers, keeping the heaviest armor facing the incoming fire. Ocean Dragon and Night Dragon worked in tandem, protecting the rescued humans while intercepting enemy flanks. Captain Linda directed the team with calm authority, giving precise orders that minimized risk and maximized damage to the Varkal. Daniel watched from Night Dragon, helping coordinate movements for the rescued colonists. Laura assisted injured survivors, ensuring they were safe during the attack. The chaos of battle was intense, but the crew remained disciplined. They had survived worse and learned from every engagement. Hours passed as the dragons fought through the enemy ships. Explosions lit the void, and debris floated between them. The Varkal attacked with precision, but they underestimated the coordination and resilience of the dragons. Slowly, the human ships pushed the enemy back, forcing them to retreat toward uncharted territory. After the battle, the dragons regrouped. Damage was minimal considering the intensity of the fight. Shields had absorbed most of the attacks, and minor repairs were underway. The rescued humans were shaken but safe, and morale remained high among the crew. They had faced the Varkal again and had not only survived, but prevailed. Ryan addressed the senior officers. "We have proven ourselves in battle, but we cannot be complacent. The Varkal are out there, and they will regroup. We must continue our patrols, protect the remaining colonies, and anticipate their next move. Humanity's strength is not in hiding, it is in action, in courage, and the will to survive." Marcus nodded. "We'll continue refining our tactics. Each engagement teaches us more about them. We are learning faster than they are." Olivia smiled faintly. "And the ships are ready. We can take on more if needed. We are prepared for anything." The dragons continued their journey through the uncharted systems. moving with purpose and vigilance. The rescued humans began to understand the scale of what had happened and the power of the fleet protecting them. Stories of the dragons of Earth would spread through the colonies, giving hope and courage to all who heard them. Laura and Daniel sat together in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "We survived, and we are safe now," Laura said softly. Daniel nodded. "And humanity will not let them strike again. The dragons showed us that. We are strong, and we are ready." On the bridge of Iron Dragon, Ryan reviewed the reports of the recent battle. Every move, every decision, and every response was recorded and analyzed. He knew that the Varkal would adapt, and so must humanity. The dragons were not just ships, they were the embodiment of human skill, strategy, and determination. They were the force that would protect humanity wherever needed. As the dragons continued through space, the crew remained alert, knowing that the war was far from over. They had rescued the colonists, defeated the enemy in their first major engagement, and proven the strength of humans in battle. Yet they also knew that the galaxy was vast and filled with dangers. Every move forward was a step into the unknown. The rescued humans slowly regained their confidence.